Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast. I mean, today's guest really has built something truly special, and what I love is it's really at the intersection of creativity, education, and certainly, and you'll see why, community impact. So Tanisha Hall is the founder of Arts Academy, a Los Angeles-based hub where students of all ages, and this one things I was telling her I love is that it's professionals, it's the underserved community, it's Grammy-winning artists, it's people of all walks of life who are just coming together to, you know, create opportunities and build confidence and just making the arts accessible to everyone. So, and you'll hear that Tanisha started in the music industry she's just gone on to build a thriving academy you're changing lives. Your story is one of passion, vision, and purpose. So, welcome to the show, Tanisha.
Thank you, Michael. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's get going. When you think back to when you started Whitehall, what was happening at that time that made you feel like you had to make this move?
Well, God and everything happening in my life kind of forced my hand. I was working in the industry. I was working with a group at the time, and then I was working also with Shaka Khan, um,
Wow.
running a division of her nonprofit, the Shaka Khan Foundation. I was over special events and working with their Shaka Believes program, where we worked with a school and kids in Watts. And so I am a Los Angeles import. My mom grew up here, but I did not. I moved here from the East Coast. And so I've seen the movies like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, so movies, but I wasn't really familiar with these neighborhoods. And now working in Watts with these kids, and I'm like, oh my God. So Shaka decided at a certain point that she didn't want to continue with the foundation. She wanted to kind of transition to other things. And I'm like, now that I know what I know, I can't go back across Pico and just go get another job in the entertainment industry or, go to Hollywood and pretend like I don't know what's happening and I choose not to do anything about it.
Hmm.
So about 10 years prior to that, I started teaching music lessons as a side hustle. I started seeking like vocal coaching and piano lessons out of my home. And then, of course, throughout that journey, I became a mom. And so in 2011, all things collided, and I had to make a decision like, do I go get another job or do I do something else? And I was like, well, let me just try this out. So I worked to get more students. And I think at the time I had about maybe 5 or 10, private lesson students that I would do as a side hustle. And that grew to like 30 students within a couple months. And so then my kids would come home from school and I'd be trying to teach lessons in the living room. And it was just like a big problem. And so my grandparents, they owned, my grandmother is a hairdresser and she had a beauty salon in a building that she owned in South LA where we lived. And so one day I went to visit her and I was like, hey, Granny. And I asked her if I could use the address as my business address while I figured out what I wanted to do. And she was like, oh, well, one of my tenants are leaving. If you're looking for a place you can rent here. And I was like, yay, I'm going to build a music school. And so I did. And let me tell you, I started it September 12th, 2011. Like we scraped my money together and did the construction to put it together. And my baby at the time was 1. And I would teach lessons and have my baby. I have 5 kids, so my baby was 1. My daughter was 5, and my youngest daughter was 5. And so I would be there having Joshua on my sitting on my lap while I'm there. I made a whole kid drawer for his stuff, toys to he could play and stuff while I'm teaching. And so now 14, almost 15 years later, he's 15,
Yeah.
almost 16. And, he's one of our team workers that's working there. My youngest daughter, she's one of our staff members. And so,
Very
yeah,
cool.
so in that kid drawer, that was my son's, his toys. And now it's like the younger siblings and kids, everybody knows that the kid drawer is there. Because again, I raised my children in that building. So, people know that, it's a family friendly, space. And my last assistant, she had a daughter and, she brought her daughter to work starting at 3 months old. And So yeah, I'm so proud of the space that we built that is about family and community and connectivity and just allowing people to be in that transition, because that's what Whitehall provided for me, and the ability to like transition from one thing to the next. And
Hmm.
the greatest part is that I'm able to utilize all of the skills, like my music skills, my business skills, my negotiation skills. I mean, because being a nonprofit leader, you still got to be able to get out there and get money, and still a business. So yeah, I guess that's the answer to your question. The long story, but yeah.
And so I guess we should tell people a little bit about what Whitehall is all about. I mean, like what are we'll just go with kids. I know it's not just kids, but a kid
Hmm.
comes there, like what services are you offering? How are you helping them? Like talk a little bit about that dream making we were talking about before.
Absolutely. So the one thing I like to, our little catchphrase is we're creating creators of all ages. So we
Mm.
start at age 4, but my oldest student is like 76. And I have a lot of grandparents that are like, I pay for my kids to have lessons, and my grandkids now want to give me some lessons. So, somebody comes to Whitehall Arts Academy through multiple different paths. You
Hmm.
can either come in through the door, through private lessons, and that's where you get one-on-one with the teacher. And so the ones that have received some of those awards, like the Grammy Awards or Broadway or The Voice and Idol, they've typically come in through the private lesson avenue. In 2014, through partnership with the city of LA, we started our group classes. So that program, it started as free. Now we just charge like a $35 tuition for the program a month, and they're able to participate in as many classes as they want in the group class program. So typically a parent will drop their kid off at 10 a.m. and they'll pick them up at 2 p.m. and they'll take piano, drums, voice class, acting, dance, music production, like violin. So all these classes are packaged together in this program, and they're able to participate in that. And so that has 4 quarterly sessions per year. So that's another way that they can come in through the
Okay.
door. There's 2 other paths to get to Whitehall Arts Academy. We teach at school. So we go on site to various schools. Right now we're at 4 different schools in the area. We primarily target or work with charter schools because charter schools typically have less
Hmm.
resources and less things available. So we work with a lot of the charter schools in our area, and we're able to provide at an affordable rate for the school so that they're able to get high level, instead of them having to pay at like $100 or $200 an hour, which some of the bigger, companies are charging. We're able to charge at an affordable rate and really be flexible with their schedule. And if a school even doesn't have budget, we've at times, depending on how our financial situation is, been able to donate our services and go there because we really want to work with the population
Right.
that's in need. And the fourth way we just started, I'm so proud. We just launched a workforce development program. So our very
Yeah.
first one. And so it's training transitional age foster youth and justice impacted youth ages 18 to 28 in video production, audio engineering, and lighting design. So
Nice.
that program, we launched it in March um 2025. So I got the vision and put the program together in March 2024, worked and did a bunch of grant writing and funding. So far we've raised about $1 million for that program.
Wow.
And so we just got more support from LA County. So we're an official LA County Department of Economic Opportunity high road training program, which gives us more access to reach and train more youth throughout LA County. So we just graduated our first cohort, and we've taken them. We just did an event last week at the Sony Pictures lot. We've taken them to different clubs like the Peppermint Club by Live Nation in Hollywood, and we're working to get them in at SoFi Stadium. And we have a huge partnership with an organization called Solotech, and they're like one of the #1 providers of equipment and gear. Like they do the giant LED walls for tours and the
Hmm.
speakers and all of that. So they've come on as one of our partners as well. Because again, like you said, we're working to, you know, better lives, and give people different
Yeah.
paths. So you know, whatever path that you choose, Whitehall Arts Academy has somewhere, whether it's a kid. We all know not all kids are going to go up to be Mozart or Michael Jackson. However, we do know that putting your youth your kids in music lessons, it improves the test scores, it improves their, their brain development, their spatial learning, something, I don't know. And, but their memory, their ability to multitask, this is what music lessons helps in their development. So, um, about 75% of our students that graduate, we have 100% high school graduation. 75% do go on to four-year university, and the ones who don't
Wow.
go to four-year university are going to two-year college, because one thing that we've been really advocating for right now is trades. Um,
Hmm.
and because we know that university and college is not for everyone.
Yeah.
However, if we don't send people to become a plumber, we're not going to have any more plumbers, right? Like, and plumbers are rich. So it's like, we need people to be plumbers and electricians. And again, that's what Soundworks is. It's trades, being an audio engineer, because these are amazing family sustaining careers that you can have without necessarily having to incur the debt, and the time that it takes to go to university.
Yeah, I mean, how remarkable, all the different angles that you are helping people. And she completely scooted over the fact that she's worked with people that went on to win Grammys, American Idol, Broadway, but all of that and that too. So, I'm curious, was there a moment really early on when you thought, okay, this is going to work? Or maybe a moment that where you thought, wow, this is a bit harder than I expected.
I think I wake up every day and I'm like, listen, what am I doing? But when I get the stories, and like one of our
Hmm.
sound participants who just graduated, he actually he came to the program at 19 years old. He's 20 now, and he was kind of floundering a bit in life, didn't know what he wanted to do, and was kind of starting to teeter on the wrong path. And since being in Sunworks for 5 months, he's almost done a complete 180. He's back re-enrolled in school. I mean,
Mm.
he loved football. He's back on the football team. So like the last couple of weeks of Soundworks, he couldn't even, he was like, oh, Miss Tanisha, I can't make it because I have football, I have class, I'm this. And I'm like, listen, baby, I'm so proud of you. And he said,
Yeah, really.
Soundworks really changed my life, because it really helped me to get focused and to get clarity and to really have discipline. He's like, because you don't play, and if I'm not in class, you're gonna call me like, where you at? Da-da-da.
Hmm.
Like, so that discipline really helped me to get
Yeah.
back to what I want to do. And I'm like, to me, that's a success. He might not go to become a huge engineer, but he's following his passion, and he's dedicated, and he's in the mindset that it takes to make it. Um, so it's those stories. And because all the Broadway and the Grammys, like those accolades are amazing. But it's students now, like one of my students, my very first student I started with, actually, I started teaching her, I think I was 23 or 24, and she was 3.
Oh my
I
goodness.
got her from church, so I started teaching her piano, then piano and singing. She actually was my first student. She followed my steps and went to Berkeley, but she didn't like it. She's from California. She was like, I don't like it. So she came back, but now she's since graduated from Cal State Dominguez Hills. She got accepted into a law program with Pepperdine, and now she just sent me a text message yesterday that the church that we went to, and how she met me is because I was on the praise and worship team at that church. She just got accepted on the praise and worship team at that church, right? So it's like such a full circle moment. And to me, that's the thing, you know what I mean? Those things are what keep me going.
Yeah.
Because it's just everyday people getting their mini success. It's not even many, but getting their successes and achieving their goals, that's what makes it worthwhile.
Hmm.
So whether, again, your goal is to win a Grammy, then I'm going to do what I can. And me and my team is not just me anymore. I have a team of
Yeah.
about 10, 15 people now. We're going to work to put you in position and give you the tools that it takes to win that award. Or again, if you just want to be able to sing, I've helped a ton of people sing at their wedding. They're like, I want to sing myself down the aisle, done that, and or I want to sing. One of my students was like, I want to sing the national anthem at the school, football game. I'm like, okay. And she couldn't sing that good. And then she became like the #1 school national anthem singer. So it's like, those are to me the stories that help me to be like, all right, this isn't like, because being an entrepreneur is very difficult. Don't let the smooth taste fool you.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's a lot of work. And I'm
But
still an active mom.
you've had some great wins though. I mean, you've really had some great wins. But to your point, this is a business, right? It might be nonprofit. People don't realize running a nonprofit is in some ways even harder because it's a
Yeah.
nonprofit, right? I mean, are there any parts of the business that you'd want to improve or change if you could?
I mean, definitely when it comes to running a nonprofit and it comes to funding. So
Hmm.
we're now kind of crossing that area of a funding discrepancy, because when you're a smaller nonprofit, a lot of times funders will fund you at a percentage of your budget, right? So if you're a
Hmm.
nonprofit, you can apply for the same grant as a larger nonprofit. And even though our programs might be more powerful and impactful, and we're hitting the people that are truly in need, we're going to get a smaller fraction because our budget is
Hmm.
smaller. So,
Yeah.
we keep getting that, like we only fund at 30%. Well, if we're only at 100K a year, then we're only going to get 30K. We're an organization that's at 1 million a year, they're going to get 300K. Well,
Right.
300K for us would be like monumental and would be game changing, and would allow us to again be able to reach more, because organizations like myself, we are in the trenches, we're in the area, we're serving. I have people come to my door every day who, we started a community festival, a block party on our street 3 years ago, where I just was like, let's just shut down the street. I'm from the East Coast, that's what we do, we have block parties. And so we do this huge community festival, and their people are so proud and they love it. But guess what? Because of that festival, we've had at least 5 homeless families get housed, because
Oh, wow.
have vendors that are nonprofit organizations or different, community service organizations, and people have been able to get housed, get clothed. We did expungement services this year, through the LA County, the prosecutor's office or whatever, and to be able to help people get their records cleared so that they can get jobs. And we had health services, and we found out that 3 people had undiagnosed diabetes, and they were able to get
Oh, yeah.
diagnosed through those health services. So, to me, that's, I kind of forgot the question, but yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, I mean, it was really just
Oh,
about,
being running a
that.
nonprofit, like that's
And what is there anything you'd like to improve or change if you
a
could?
proven. Yeah, it's just the funding, because
Yeah, the
again,
funding. Yeah.
and I think that's meant, there are funders that are trying to change the narrative. So we were a
Hmm.
multi receiver of an award called the Lewis Prize for Music, by a man named Dan Lewis, who decided to take his wealth and to distribute it amongst smaller arts, music, specifically music based organizations like myself. I've been able to speak with Dan many times. He's so amazing, and as he's transitioning from the Lewis Prize, he's transitioning to other things. I love that. I feel like other funders have taken, the example of him to give some of us smaller orgs, like to give an org that hasn't even crossed 100K, to give us, 50K, or to give us 100K, or they were our first multi-year grant. So to have
Hmm.
that security of knowing that every year for 3 years we're going to get this money is like, oh, it's a blessing. And so, especially in this economy where, federal funding now is non-existent for arts and humanities based organizations, and a lot of city budgets are being cut, we're dependent upon these private funders, and people who are in that 1% to now be able to take their wealth and not just give it to the LA Philharmonics. No disrespect, love them completely. However, they have a ton of money where, if you would just kind of look a little deeper and see that there's other orgs who we're the ones that are getting them started to put them in position to be a part of those organizations.
So, I mean, obviously, getting in touch with those funders is
Whew.
probably it's taken a lot of time and energy.
It takes a
Yeah, I
lot,
mean,
and some of them are invite
yeah.
only, so they only
Hmm.
invite you to apply if they know about you. And it's like, how are you going to know about me if I don't have any money to really do a marketing
Right.
campaign, or if I'm just
Yeah.
literally here in the streets, doing the work? So I would say definitely just funders being a little bit more creative with their funding and to look beyond what's the clear obvious and to talk to the community. Like if they talk to because we've been referred to grants from our councilmen or from our congresswomen because we're involved with the community and we're involved politically, well, as much as a nonprofit can be involved. We're
Hmm.
involved in the community and helping to make pathways. And
Right.
they've referred us, like, hey, here's an organization. And so that's super important, is having those introductions and having those connections made on our behalf.
So you just get somehow getting in front of those people to even just help them understand who Whitehall is, who Tanisha Hall is. I mean, like what you guys are doing, the great work that you're doing, the community impact you're making. I mean, when you guys find those funders who understand what you're doing and they get it, what kind of impact does that have on your team or your ability to hit your goals?
I mean, it's amazing. When we just recently got awarded the 700,000 from LA County, I think me and my whole team were like, ah, like we were screaming and so excited
Yeah.
because my general manager, she came up with the idea for our Soundworks program 10 years ago, and she brought it to me, and I was just
Mm,
like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I told her, I was like, I don't get it. I mean, if you get it, like put it together, let me know. But I personally don't get it. Well, 10 years later, I got it, and because I got it, I'm an action person. I was like, oh, I get it now. Okay. I was like, hey, where's that proposal you gave me 10 years ago? And and we dug it up, and then I took it and I expounded on it, and then went searching, and I'm having conversations. I'm calling everybody I know, like, I got this idea and I want to do it and I need money, da da da. And and then found the right granting opportunity, and we were awarded $300,000 that year from California Community Foundation, again taking a chance on us and awarding us this Ready to Rise grant. And then again finding the LA County grant, which I was very discouraged. I didn't feel like we would qualify for it. Definitely didn't think that we would get funded at an amount that was twice our annual income for the past 2 years. And so the fact that they took that chance on us and believed in the program and believe in what we're doing, it just, again, it's that taking that chance and that belief that is so important
right.
for funders to see that. And then helping, that's the other thing I do find, is that they are not only just giving us the money, but helping with resources and tools to help us to be able to execute those programs. Because I can make all the promises I want, but at the end of the day, it's like, am I going to be able to execute that? So giving us the support to execute is also really important.
What have you tried anything creative to get in touch with funders? I mean, that
Yeah,
seems to be
one thing.
your, yeah.
So I was on I did a Zoom thing, and the executive director of the Snap Foundation from Snapchat was on there. And so I got his email address and I just sent him an email, and I was like, hey Joel, my name is Tanisha. I'm on this webinar that you're on, and I'm super impressed by you, and I have a program I think you'd be interested in. I'd like to schedule a meeting. And then he was like, okay, great. I'm really busy right now. Like, circle back in like a month. And I was like, okay. Then I got busy and forgot. So then, like, you know,
Yeah.
almost a year later, I was like, hey, Joel, remember me? Well, I still want to talk to you about that program. So we were able to finally meet. And he was like, I love it. Let's go, and so we've been in communication. So, that's the one thing, is just like taking a chance and just reaching out sometimes can be really beneficial. It doesn't
Mhm.
always work, but sometimes you just need like one yes and one door to open. So that's one thing that I've really found, is just not being afraid to reach out and not be afraid to just say, hey, how are you? This is what I'm doing. I know that this is what you're doing, because a lot of times we, the ones that are asking, don't do our due diligence and make sure that we are educated on those who we're asking from, right? So if
Right.
I just hit Joel up and I'm like, hey, I have a kids youth program. Well, they don't fund that. I mean, like they do, but
Hmm.
but workforce development is something that is within their wheelhouse. So that's something that's going to be like, oh, that's what we fund. So as a nonprofit leader, it's important to know who funds the things that you do. And then
Hmm.
that way you can have a more targeted approach and you can speak to them about something that they're interested in. Because if I'm like, oh, I have a youth program teaching music to kids, 4 to 9, they're like, okay, good luck with that. You know.
I mean, is there I'm curious, like helping you find those relevant funders? Is there, I mean, are they a certain category? Is there a list somewhere? I mean, how would you know, like, if you were going to reach out to them? How do you know who those people are?
I mean, there's the way, like, the smartest way to do it, and to if I were to advise a nonprofit, is to look at similar nonprofits and see who's funding them. I mean,
Mm,
that's
okay.
the easiest way to see, like, if there's a nonprofit, like, say your nonprofit works with homeless people, right? Homeless population. Then look at other organizations who work with homeless, and especially the successful ones, and see who's funding them. And once you see who's funding them, now you can backtrack and see how you can get aligned with them.
Right.
And not only just to see who's funding them, but see what exactly are they funding. Because again, like Whitehall Arts Academy, we have multiple different programs. So like, this program is attractive to this funder, and this program is attractive to this funder. So it's just like, if I just present them the whole ball, they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But if I'm like, hey, I have this piece of this pie that I think you might really be interested in, they're like, oh, actually I really am. So it's a two-way
Yeah.
responsibility. And there's also a thing. It's an online platform, a database called Instrumental, and it's a fundraising or a grant sourcing database, and they're really great. And so it does not free. It might be free, but you do have to pay for it, I think. But it's really great because what it does is it has a bunch of funders, and it has like different grants, and they kind of just narrow it down and do the search work for you. Um, so it does require a little bit of a financial investment on your side. However, I mean, if you're able to get a grant that's like $3,000 or 5,000, or God forbid $700,000
Right.
from investing a
Yeah.
couple $100 a month in this platform, then to me it pays for itself. And I know you're an AI. AI is your
Hmm.
thing. So like Chat GPT is another one. I mean, you can just go on Chat GPT. Is like my bestie, and I'm like, hey Chat. I mean, you can just be like, what are some funders that are funding workforce development
Yeah,
programs? And
exactly.
super resourceful. And then again, if you invest a little bit, pay a little bit more for the paid Chat GPT, where you can make a customized. So I have a customized GPT for every single one of our programs, and one for just the general Whitehall Arts
Hmm.
Academy.
Yeah.
So with those customized GPTs, I upload all of the program data. I upload like every single thing in there, and then I'll be like, give me a list of new funders that I should source. Give me a list of things that I should do, or even with grant applications, upload the grant application. Can you help me work through this grant application? Never use the first thing that Chat GPT says, though. It's a mistake.
Good. Yes, very. Hey,
Don't make
when
me.
you
He's not going to write
how
your grant for you.
that is true. It does not replace you.
No.
How do you reach out to those people now? Those organizations or those funders?
I mean, just like I told you, like I did
Just like
with
email?
Snap
Just like
Foundation,
reach. Okay, yeah.
email,
Mm-hmm.
or if there's a grant application that's open, searching, and or sending what's called a letter of inquiry.
Yeah.
LOI is the acronym for that. So sending a letter of inquiry, and sometimes, like, you may not get funded the first time, but they'll keep you in mind. For instance, we work with the LA Clippers. Hey, Clipper
Oh,
Pride,
nice. Oh,
we're a
yeah.
Clipper organization. And so we applied for the NBA Foundation grant, and they told us, like, okay, so for this current funding cycle that closed, like, they're like, we're not able to fund you in this cycle. However, we're going to keep you open, keep us updated, because they're really interested in funding our Sunworks program. However, the program that they fund has to have a minimum, I think, of 20 or 25 people in that program. Now, mind you, we have
Mm,
other programs that have 100 people, whatever, but this
right. Yeah.
particular pie slice only had I think 10 people in it. So she was like, keep me posted. We really want to, but it has to meet our funding requirements. Well, guess what?
Hmm.
The next cycle opens up in October. By October, we have to have 30 people registered in our program because of the LA County requirement. So then I get to go back to them and be like, hey, guess what? I got better numbers
Yeah.
now,
Yeah, remember
Um,
me. I mean, it's
yeah,
just
so
so it's just really about, following up, staying connected, making sure, things like the Snapchat guy that, a year doesn't go by. I mean, like if you had some kind of way to manage through that, that seems like that would be incredibly valuable for you.
it's just relationships and no,
Yeah.
and what is it? Failure is not final. Like no is not final. Every no doesn't
Uh-huh.
mean that closed door.
Exactly. Yep.
And one other thing that I learned from one of my mentors was to get number one, you can get feedback many times, especially from different funders, getting feedback on your grant, on your application as to why it wasn't selected. Because I got feedback on one of
Hmm.
them and they were like, yeah, it was just too many people that applied. They're like, your category was the biggest category and had the most applications and the littlest money. So we really had to be very specific and fund people
Right.
who literally met every single qualification. And I'm like, great. Other ones were like, well, because you said XYZ and so because you said XYZ, but we wanted to hear YXY, that's why we didn't fund you. You're like, are you
Hmm.
kidding me? So then learn to actually read. I learned how to be very specific in reading their questions and
Mm.
reading what it exactly is that they're wanting to know, because many times they're not inferring. Like some will read it and they'll infer, but some, because another piece of advice I got was to be a grant reviewer. So I started with an organization. I started being a grant reviewer. So then I'm on the other side and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
now as a grant reviewer I understand, and I'm given like different grant have different things that they're going to give you for their review policy. So then I'm like understanding it from the backside. So now when I'm writing grants, I'm writing grants from that thought process of being a reviewer. And like, am I hitting the benchmarks that they're telling their people to look for? Am I making sure that I'm answering all these things specifically? And because those are mistakes that I made in the past, or not mistakes, but those are things that I didn't do in the past.
Right.
I just didn't know, or just you think you're writing an essay, or you let ChatGPT write it, and ChatGPT a person, and is not is I don't know if I could say this enough. Do not ever use the first answer that ChatGPT gives you, or even the second
You're
or the
right.
it's not.
Refine, refine, refine.
Yeah, you
Yes.
gotta,
Yeah.
you can't do that. And as a grant reviewer, I'm seeing how so many people are just putting it in Chat GPT and just putting an answer, and it's like, bruh, you didn't even try. You
Yeah,
did
isn't it
not
amazing
try.
how much, I mean, like you knew the music world, but to take that passion and now have turned it into something like you have, I mean, you must feel kind of like a different person as far as your knowledge of like building a nonprofit business. That's really cool.
Well, the best thing is my degree in college. I went to Berkeley College of Music, but my degree was music business. And
Oh, okay, cool.
and one of my goals, like I went into Berkeley, I say this joke, like I went into Berkeley wanting to be the next Mariah Carey, and I came out wanting to be the next Tommy Mottola. And
Yeah.
because I'm like, singing is cool and I can
Yeah.
do whatever, but like business is even cooler. And like, you
Uh-huh.
know, so that's why I said what I'm doing now, I really get to utilize all my gifts and skills. I even through the side hustles, I'm sure you understand, Michael, you're above 40. You have many different ways that you need to make money. And I did accounting for like bookkeeping and accounting for 7 years as a side hustle. So I do my own books and I could do budgets and do all of that because of that's just like a side
Right.
hustle I did in the entertainment industry. Because even though the entertainment industry is like all fancy and fly and cute, it doesn't pay that well, like to be honest. So in order to maintain, that's why so many people end up, getting arrested for things because, you know, it don't pay what you think. So I would just do a bunch of side hustles like teaching lessons or doing accounting and stuff on the side. in order to, have a lifestyle and feed my kids and make sure they had clothes on.
Right.
And so all those side hustles have come together into one like big side hustle. So now I'm like, oh, I need a new side hustle because all my side hustles became my main hustle.
Exactly. Yeah, really. You'd have to choose a side hustle and something completely different because you got it all covered right there.
Oh my
Well,
God,
that's
I
just
don't know.
that is so cool. I just love your journey, how it just started with a passion idea and has really grown to make such an impact on kids and adults and grandparents and like multi-generational families. It's very cool stuff. I just have to congratulate you for you know, it's hard. Like you said, building a business is hard.
It
But
is.
when you lead with your passion, when you're so mission oriented and value driven, like you are, you'll bust through all of the obstacles that come your way. And like busting through this funding, which all nonprofits obviously have to deal with, but
It's
it's
hard.
interesting to think through how you can bust through the funding wall. So that's really cool.
And just, I
Yeah.
mean, not being afraid. I've taken chances and some worked out and some didn't. I took a chance in 2016 when the city stopped our funding, and I was like, I'm gonna pay for it myself. And then I realized really quickly that was a really bad idea, because it was like financial suicide. And then,
Yeah.
thankfully the birth of Airbnb came, and I Airbnb'd out the guest room in my home, and to help make sure that the mortgage got
Oh
paid.
my
And so there's
goodness.
like things, so it's been,
Yeah.
and it's like some years we eat out every day, and other years it's like we just eating noodles. It's like we got to do what
Uh-huh.
we do, but staying focused and knowing that that's all part of the journey. And I mean, I look at it like if you're climbing a mountain, like you have peaks and you have plateaus, and sometimes you got to go down and go around in order to get the route to go up. And sometimes when we're on a down, we're like, oh no, the world is falling. It's like, no, you're in the next part of your journey, and those plateaus are so important. And that's one of the things. Like when I hit my first plateau at year 5, I had climbed this arduous mountain to get to year 5. Like most businesses fail in the first 5 years. So
Right.
got to year 5 and I was tired. And I was super tired. So then like from like year 6 and 7, we kind of chilled. Things are kind of chill and just kind of plateaued. And but I didn't know at the time that that's what that was. And so then it's like, okay, things started like ramping up again. And like in hindsight, I'm like, so it's like we had to have that plateau to rest a little bit. But while we were resting, it's just like I just started like, I had to recover myself, because we don't think about, self-care is important. I don't think, like, I'm not going to the spa. That's not my thing. I don't do the spa. But you might just need to like not like turn off the computer at like 10
Right.
o'clock and like go to bed and like go to the park with your kids and just be like, no, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
taking these phone calls, and I just need to chill and relax. And so now at almost 50 years old, I've gotten very smart about that. And I tell people, give me a break. Leave me alone. Thank you. Leave me alone. I just need to be left alone right now. And, and I'll get back to you when I can. And having those boundaries to be able to protect myself. And I'm very protective of my team. Because I push them a lot. And then I'm like, all right, now we rest. Now we rest.
So
We're going to
important.
chill.
Yeah.
It's important. And I'm going to still do what I can do to make sure that you're able to pay your bills and pay your rent. But we need to rest so that we can now get our minds back and get ideas back flowing. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're tired, you can't dream and you can't think. And so that's what I found is super important. And being a nonprofit leader, because I'm a nonprofit leader, I'm also still an active teacher, music teacher, coming up with curriculums
Right.
and ideas,
Yeah.
and an active mother of teenagers and grown children, which takes its own creativity in itself. And so it's just like, again, we don't always think about how we're making sure that we're okay and we're getting the rest that we
Mm-hmm.
need. And so like my phone goes on do not disturb every single day at 10 o'clock p.m. If you try to call me, you can't. If you call me twice in breakthrough, I'm still not going to answer unless you're my mom, dad, or one of my kids. So leave me alone, because I've learned that that's super important, for me to be
Yes.
able to function.
I mean, it's so important for those of us on this type of journey because when you're doing it, you could work 24/7. You have
Hmm.
to be very conscious and aware of not forgetting about yourself in this journey when you're caring for so many others. So well said, Tanisha. I'm just so happy for you, thrilled. I feel like there's got to be a way for us to bust through this funding wall. Like there's got to be some way to reach out to these people and break through. I'm going to give that some thought. I have to say, it's like something that's swirling around in my head. So thank you so much for joining
Well,
me. It's been such a great conversation.
if you got Mackenzie Scott's number, she's been throwing out millions. So
No, okay. I don't have the number, but see if we can't find some other way in.
exactly. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
yeah.
Michael, for this
Of
opportunity. I really appreciate being able
course.
to share about our story and the journey. And again, I'm always accessible. If anybody would like to find out more about myself or Whitehall Arts Academy, you can go to whitehallacademy.org. You can also go to tanishahall.com. That's my personal website. And or whitehallacademy.org, or check us out on social. We're on Instagram at Whitehall Arts Academy.
Perfect. Thank you. I was going to ask you that, so you beat me to it. Perfect. We want to make sure people can get to you and learn more about your wonderful organization and contribute, guys. Like even little bits here and there that they really help organizations like Whitehall do what they do best and helping people. So congratulations and thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me.
Thank you.
All right.